Thank you for coming. These presentations were organized as an opportunity to share some of the experiences and the expertise of Landmark College alumni as well as Landmark College faculty and staff. And so each session is paired up with a current Landmark College faculty or staff member and a Landmark College alumni. So this session is about social media, and not only how do you make the switch from personal use that you might focus on for Facebook when you're in college to professional use, what happens when you move into the career place, but also how is social media used within the work world. So the two presenters today are Michael Luciani, the Dean of Students at Landmark College, and this is an area that he's aware of both in terms of his work in student affairs as well as just his particular interest in technology. His co-presenter is Alexandra Libby, and wow, you're going to have to take me back. 2009 graduate? Mm-hmm. Yeah, 2009 graduate. So Alexandra is now working towards a nursing degree, and she will definitely take the world of healthcare by storm. So I personally am really looking forward to that. And she's somebody who has an intuitive sense of other people, who really enjoys connecting with other people. And even though she's moved on from Landmark College, still stays in close touch with us. And one of the ways in which she does it is through social media. So I think that they'll provide a good balance and provide some information as well as be able to answer some questions and perhaps give you some tidbits about social media.
Thanks, Ann. Like Ann said, my name is Michael Luciani. I'm the Dean of Students, and in my role on campus, I work a lot with students and some of the challenges and relationships that they have. And 5 or 6 years ago, that was a lot easier because we didn't have things like social media to contend with. Maybe a text message, maybe an email. But over the last 5 years, since the advent of Facebook and Twitter and blogs and all those other elements, relationships between students have, there's been an added element of challenge in helping them understand how they connect with each other in appropriate ways and how they represent themselves through this new kind of media. Now, in addition to helping students understand that, it's also important that we help them understand how they can transition from being a student to somebody in the professional world as well. So we've put this presentation together to talk about the different kinds of social media that we have currently today that is used for most individuals. The benefits and the pitfalls of social media, and really how to best protect yourself and set yourself up for using all the benefits to really promote yourself as well. So those are the goals of our program. We're going to talk about the different kinds of media today, the benefits especially around career development. That's what we're focusing on. How can social media benefit me, and what do I have to watch out for in terms of developing a career? And then we're going to talk about the pitfalls, and then finally we're going to end up giving some strategic advice on what you need to think about, how to be metacognitive about using your social media. So Alex is going to talk about the different categories that we have.
Okay, so main ones are blogging, microblogging, and sites like Facebook, the rather outdated MySpace, sites like that, that if you're out there, people can basically find you through these portals, and that can either have a positive impact or a negative impact. So blogging, do you guys know what blogging is? So you can either have a regular paper blog or a video blog, which are becoming way more common, especially from YouTube or Facebook or any other site, and are pretty common nowadays, I think. you have anything you want to add?
Sure. So just to go back a little again, we started listing out all the different kinds of social media that we have. And we started with naming the actual sites. There's Facebook, there's Twitter, there's YouTube, there's LinkedIn, all of these different kinds of sites. And what we were able to figure out is that we can put them in pretty clear categories of either a blog, a microblog, or more of a social network. So, as Alex said, blogging is derived from the term weblog. A lot of people say, how do they get the name blog? Well, when you say weblog fast, I guess that's how they came up with the term blog, so weblog. A lot of people started out using it like a journal or an online diary, something that they can just keep their thoughts and share it with their friends, have some opinions that they want to get out there. With the advent of things like Blogger and WordPress, people were able to create newsletters in an afternoon and send it out to everybody in the world. And they're used to share resources, experiences, reports and news services, ideas, or as a reflective tool. And people understand a blog now to be somewhat of more of an editorial kind of resource than an official newspaper or news event. Many newspapers will have a blog attached to it, and people understand that they can go there for more of the op-ed kind of information. There's also microblogging, what we consider microblogging, which is this kind of blog kind of opportunities to get information out there, but it's in short bits. This is your Twitter, your Facebook status updates. Any other texting is a kind of a microblog as well. Anything that you can put out there, usually in 140 characters or less. And everybody's gotten pretty good at getting their point across or their thoughts out in 140 characters or less. It's similar to blogging, but it's a lot shorter. Generally, what happens over Twitter and texting is conversations back and forth, while blogging is more of a reflection that somebody puts out there, and there can always be comments. Microblogging is intended to facilitate conversation, and I use that term in the air quotes because people will text each other and microblog across a room when really they could just start talking to each other instead. If you're in a room of teenagers and you can see it going on, and that's a fascinating anthropological fact. My son has actually texted my wife from the back seat of our car to the front seat of the car. So that was unique. And then finally we have social networking, and Alex is going to talk about that.
Okay, so generally on a level that most people are familiar with is Facebook. Now apparently there's LinkedIn, which I found out about all of like 3 days ago. And Facebook tends to be the more social, personal, with your friends type profile, whereas LinkedIn is like your resume and things like that. And so if you Google somebody, both will likely show up depending upon their privacy settings. Facebook, I'm pretty sure most people know how to work and whatnot, but it tends to, since it's more of a social site, you can have anyone on there and anyone can basically friend request you if you allow it, and therefore know a lot about you, whereas LinkedIn tends to be a more specific, it's more geared to a specific group, whereas Facebook has gone from having to have a school address to apply for one to any email address. I don't know if you want to add anything.
A few more things about social networking. By the way, by just a show of the hands, who has a Facebook page in the room? Okay. Anybody have a LinkedIn page as well? Okay. Social networking, the main one, like Alex said, is Facebook. The other one was MySpace, which seemed to go into out of style with a lot of folks. But these are groups, these are sites that allow people to create a profile themselves and join and connect with different networks. Whether it's, like Alex was saying, when Facebook started out, it was only for people who had an email address that ended in .edu. And they've since expanded. And actually, it's unlimited right now. But you are able to create different networks and different connections through Facebook to find people that you haven't been able to speak to, may not even meet, but have some commonalities. So this has been the real draw to Facebook, is the connections that people are able to make through this kind of, through this social network. For the younger generation, for students, it's essentially a way to stay connected with their classmates. For students who are going off to college, it's a way to stay connected with their friends from high school and their classmates now. And as folks move on and graduate and move on in their lives, it's a way to not only stay connected with all of those people, but older people, I'll say, have been able to use Facebook to reconnect with people that they haven't seen. To my surprise, I've reconnected with about 18 or 19 people from high school that I otherwise really haven't been able to, or didn't know how to get in touch with them over the last 20 years. So it's really that powerful to be able to do that. Now, Facebook itself started as a truly social networking site. It was not intended to be a way to promote businesses or services or anything like that. It's moved into that. But there are other sites that do that under the term social network, and we have LinkedIn here, which is one of it. It's one of them. It's kind of the professional Facebook, and it's much more limited than Facebook itself, because it wants to really connect people on a professional level. So you put your experience down. You really don't put down what you went on the weekend, what you did over the last weekend. Facebook is actually an example of social networking and microblogging kind of crammed into one. You have your social network information here and your connections, and then up here in this area, your status update. It's a way for you to
let people know what's going on without actually having to inform them of anything. You can also let them come on your vacation without actually having to bring them, because you can now upload umpteen million pictures as you take them. So basically, Facebook is much more geared to sending out mass amounts of information. I'm sure if you have a Facebook, you have at least one friend who updates their status on like an hourly basis, if not more. Whereas there are other people who don't go on at all, or use it basically just to say, hi, I'm gone, bye.
And as we said, LinkedIn is mainly a profile that connects you with different folks and different people who have the same backgrounds or are looking for a particular, somebody with particular skills or particular interests. Facebook really is a concatenation or a collection of all different kinds of social media, not only the social networking, but the blogging and the microblogging. It's all in one, which is why Facebook is first the most popular, because it's a one-stop shopping area, but also can be the most risky for folks as well. Now, in addition to these open to the public, open to everyone kinds of social media sites, different organizations have social media sites as well. For example, I belong to the National Association for Student Personnel Administrators. And their membership, if you are a member, you can actually create a profile on that, on their website and their page, and all their members will have access to that. So that's a closed type of social networking site. If there's anybody in here that is a member of NASPA, which is the association I just mentioned, you can log on and look at my profile. If you're not a member of that association, there's no way you can see that. So that's more of a closed group. Those are the different kinds of social networking that there are. Facebook is the most open and offers the most kind of access for everybody, and that's why it's the most popular and the one that really is the most well known. of the social networking sites. So just a little bit more. We're going to get into pitfalls in a second, but the question is, why is social networking taken on this? People are being drawn to it like moth to a flame almost. Anytime there's the ability to use a social networking type of interaction over the web, people are taking advantage of that. And it does have a lot of advantage for somebody who's trying to promote their career or promote themselves in any kind of positive way. So what it can do is somebody through a social network can easily promote their skills, their accomplishments, what they've done in the past couple of years, what they can offer potential employers, customers, and coworkers. It's essentially a resume that you can put out there, and it's accessible to so many more people than you could ever do if you ever make available to if you try to put a piece of paper on somebody's desk. It's actually very rare that we ever get a paper resume anymore. It also provides connections to other professionals and organizations through professional organizations. This is actually my profile page on the NASPA website. So what any educator who's a member of NASPA can see is when I've been how long I've been a member, what my name is, my job title, my primary functions, the institution, how long I've been in student affairs. There's one other kind of social network that is even more closed up than something like this through an association, and that's through professional organizations themselves. Large corporations are now using internal social networking in order to increase their productivity. For example, Boeing is a huge company, and they use programs like Microsoft's SharePoint to develop their own social network within the corporation. SharePoint is a information sharing internal program, and every employee, if the employer wants, can have a profile that's up on their internal website. Now what this allows is managers to be able to go to the website if they're starting a task or starting a management team or have a job that needs to be done and they need to assemble a team. They can go to these websites, these internal websites, punch in exactly what they need for qualifications for a member of the team, and dossiers from every employer, every employee in the company will come up, and they'll be able to assemble a team very quickly, very efficiently, and with a lot of expertise. So that's another way that social networks, a closed social network, is migrating into businesses. Now the challenge then is for young professionals not to apply the way that they use the open social networks like Facebook and the microblogs to what they use in the professional area as well, and that's when the pitfalls really come. Social networks can also help folks gain advice, exchange new ideas. There's a lot of brainstorming that also happens through these as well. That used to happen with bulletin boards and news services and things like that. Those were clunky, not very efficient. This social networking schema is really providing a lot of positive resource for businesses and for professionals. And a lot of problem solving action can take place, especially when we're working with organizations and associations that have a global presence as well. So input from overseas can occur through this type of structure. So those are some of the benefits to using and understanding social networks in a career. And now, Abby's going to talk about some of the pitfalls that we usually see.
Yeah. Well, I know you told me that both of these came from actual websites, whereas these were things that people had done. They weren't taken for show. A lot of the problems come in when people think that, oh, because it's my Facebook, nobody that I don't want to see it will see it. unless you know how to work the privacy settings, that generally doesn't always apply. So a lot of problems come in when you announce that you're already looking for a job before you've gotten a job or quit your last job, or if you make comments about your boss or things like that and they end up seeing it, then they're obviously not going to be very happy. But also just like even in the process of looking for a job, and colleges have actually started doing this as well, if they can find you on the internet, they will. It's relatively, depending on who you are, simple to do, but they can accept or refuse your application based on things that they have seen on your Facebook or on your blog or things like that. They can say, oh, this is a more full picture of the kind of person this is. That's not what their resume looks like. This may not be the best idea. On the other hand, it could tell them absolutely nothing, depending on how cautious you are, and that probably benefits you. Yeah, I don't know what else you want to include.
So
you're on the other end of
yeah,
this.
The main pitfall that people fall into is working from a mindset where they think that their real life, their non-virtual life, is completely separate from their virtual life here. So in other words, well, what I put on Facebook really won't, or any social networking site, really will have no effect on my work life or my home life or my real world life. And time again, that's been proven to be not true at all. As Alex said, these are actual quotes that have been taken off of things like Twitter and Facebook and other social networking sites by employers to make a determination about their employees. So if you're working somewhere and your boss or a supervisor or somebody else who works for you happens to see this statement, working, this job sucks worse than the economy, and it's even spelled wrong there, or use the wrong word, then companies, employers are known to take action against that. If this is what you're portraying about how you feel about your job, about the work that you do, then the next thing that somebody will probably get is a letter or a conversation saying, well, if it's really that bad, then why don't we just part our ways? So people have to be very understanding about and very clear that what they put on or through a social networking site is it's an actual representation of what they are putting out to the world. It's like writing it on a t-shirt or putting it on a resume that you are submitting to your potential employer. People have done things like announcing interviews, hoping for raises, criticizing their supervisors on these areas. And if your privacy settings are not correct, which many people do not have the correct privacy settings, anybody can see it. And it's very interesting just to randomly go through social networking sites and see what people put out there without probably knowing or realizing that they've put it out there for the whole world to see. Like this guy right here. I don't really know who would be willing to have this kind of picture available to the whole world. And this wasn't on a site that I had to really search for. I Googled the term bad Facebook photos, and this is one that came right up. It's so easy to find these things on the web, and if this guy ever walks into my office looking for a job, I'm gonna think twice about it, which is tough because he may be exactly the right person for the job, and just do this kind of on a whim or on a foolish moment. Unfortunately, this is making an impression that he's putting out there to everyone.
That could have been a random picture that he posted, but it also goes for profile pictures. I know way too many people that have pictures of them doing, like having bottles of champagne in their hands and are underage, or like making out with some random person or pictures from spring break that you don't exactly want the rest of the world to see. And if you can be found on Google, they can see that picture. Because that's one of the things that Facebook will not let you have a privacy setting for. They may not be able to go through the rest of your photos, but they can still see that photo.
So one of the tools in people's toolbox that they need to understand is how this information actually gets used once it's in somebody's website or somewhere. Now, Facebook would, well, they're kind of quiet about it, but no social media site will actually come out and say, everything you give us is completely private, it's not going to go anywhere without your permission, because they can't promise that. Even back here, when I have this site on here, NASPA is a closed organization. You need to be a member to even see this. But a member that may not care for another member could copy this picture and post it on their own site. They could do whatever they'd like to it. So even though there's a lot of privacy in a social, in a professional organization site, privacy cannot be promised or ensured really through anything, any kind of site like this. Because the real purpose of it is to connect your information and put it out there. It's not like, if you're looking to archive information on the web somewhere so it's secure and unavailable and protected and encrypted, social media sites are not the way to do them. Including photo sites like Flickr, certainly YouTube. All these sites that promise all this free space, if you just download the information to them and you can keep it for as long as you'd like, all of this information is susceptible to getting out there and staying out there. So the major pitfall is once you put it on the web, that information will persist. So information persistence. You can easily lose control of what you upload. Even if you upload something and then completely erase it from your profile later, somebody else might have gone in and copied it or connected to it. It's going to exist really everywhere. Another pitfall is that you may not participate in these social media sites, but this is a pitfall just with the internet in today's age, and that's with new programs that are coming out called aggregators. These are websites that have actually been designed and they are programmed for somebody to go there, put in your name, and the program itself will search the internet for anything that's related to Michael Luciani, and it will display it for you. This is kind of an enhanced, well, if anybody ever who hasn't Googled themselves to see what shows up? Anybody Google their own name to see what shows up on the web? Okay. Well, that's one way that people usually go to the web, Google a name, and see what comes up. There's a website out there called Spokeo that is an enhanced version of the Google search engine because it looks for very specific information. We're actually going to show you an example of Spokeo and how it works. And I mean, I call it Spookio because it's really scary what this, when I put my own name in there, it's scary what this aggregator was able to pick up and put on there. So the important point is that this information will never be private and will never be secure if it's on one of these sites like Facebook or a professional website. Even if you work for a large company and it's a closed system, that company owns that information. Just like if I walk across the quad and the photographer takes a picture of me, you probably noticed him in here before, he was taking pictures, all right? That's an old-fashioned version of my image getting out there somewhere, and I don't know what's going to happen to that information right now. I mean, I trust Landmark College that it's going to use it responsibly, but in a lot of different ways, that photographer is just like the computer when I put my information there, and then it goes away, and I'm not sure what's going to happen to that. there's some strategic considerations whenever you're working with a social media site, whether it's a blog, a microblog like Twitter, or an actual social networking component that you really want to think about. You want to really be, I'm going to use the landmark term, metacognitive with these considerations before you start using these kinds of sites. Or maybe go back to these sites that you might already be on and take a look at what you did put out there and do your best to put better information out there. So,
Yeah, one of the most important things I can stress is have personal information and then have everything else. So basically if it's email or Facebook or anything, I've seen people with their personal Facebook and then their professional one. They use a different name for each, but both can be found if you know the person well enough. Same goes for email addresses or any other way that you can be contacted. Basically, the most strategic consideration I could say is if you don't want to walk up to your boss, your grandmother, anyone you want to respect you, and say it straight to their face or show them a picture, don't put it on the internet because they could end up seeing it. If you wouldn't want it delivered to their front door, the cover of the New York Times, it probably shouldn't be on the internet. And that's sort of how I learned it. But to me, seems like a pretty straightforward way, but that obviously is not the case when there are statuses and pictures that were on the previous slides. The other thing is actually look at, like if you have Facebook, look at their privacy settings because they've made them so complex that you actually don't know what information, most people have no idea what information they're actually letting the entire world see. And their recommended settings actually give away way more information than you'd probably ever want some random person on the internet to be able to find about you. So learn them or get somebody who knows them.
yeah, it's always important, and I'm guilty myself, whenever you're trying to install a program or start a service, there's always this privacy policy that you have to click an accept button. And I don't know about you, to my own fault, I never really read them. I scroll down to the bottom and click accept. With a blind faith that what really bad could be in this. If it was bad, then I would see it on the news. But it is important for you to understand how much you're giving away when you're signing up for one of these services. And it's important before you ever even do that to determine what kind of social media presence you want to have. If you're a lucky person, you haven't delved into any type of social media, and if you were starting from square one, the first thing that you should really do is to say, okay, what kind of presence do I want to have through social media? Many people will say, well, I want to have positive and professional presence, and that's going to benefit anybody who goes into this. Unfortunately, what happens is that 14, 15, and 16-year-olds aren't thinking about that. So they start with a different kind of social media presence when they get onto Facebook and other things. But determine what kind of social media presence you want to have. It's interesting. I happen to be speaking with, or in a room with Martha Cantor, who is the undersecretary who just spoke it, and she has a Facebook page. But she was very clear that she can only use the page for professional communications. She puts nothing personal up there, no personal information, no personal comments. She doesn't allow personal comments to come in. It's strictly professional. And a person in her position, that is a smart thing to do. Nobody can post a picture to her Facebook page without her knowledge. Probably nobody can post a picture to her Facebook page at all because she needs to have that kind of control and that kind of safety. Understand the privacy policies, we talked about that. Separate your personal from professional information as much as possible. This can be as easy as having 2 separate email accounts. I have a work email and I have a personal email, and I use each one for different things. I also have a junk email as well. So if anybody ever asks me for, give us your email in order to move forward on this web page, on this customer service page, I use a junk email. So something I never really pay attention to. Doesn't even have my real name attached to it. And then search yourself and take action. You know that there's commercials out there that say you should check your credit score every year. You should also check your online presence every year as well. And I joked about people Googling themselves, but it's really an important thing to do, because you'd be surprised how much information is out there and available for people to see. And we're going to actually, we decided to give a couple of examples of how easy it is for people to find information about you. We're going to do two things. I'm going to be, Alexander and I both have Facebook accounts, but we're not connected in any way. We are not friends with each other. We haven't given permission for each other to see each other's website. But I'm going to try to look for Alexandra and see what she has, even though she doesn't know that I'm trying to connect with her. And then I'm going to give the example of Spokeo, so you can see what that kind of aggregator can do with information that's out there. And then we'll have a few more minutes for any questions. So the first thing I'm going to do is open up a web browser. I'm going to find Spokeo, Spokeo.com. Okay, so I'm going to look for myself, Michael Luciani. That's all I'm going to put in here. And I'm doing this myself because in other presentations I've asked for volunteers, and it hasn't turned out so well for that volunteer. So you can see that very quickly there's a Michael Luciani in California, one in Florida, one in Georgia, Illinois, Massachusetts. Well, I used to live in Massachusetts. Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania. Oh, Keene, New Hampshire, Michael Luciani. Even has my middle name, middle initial correctly. So it's going to pull me up pretty quickly, and what I was most shocked to see is that it knew my wife's name. I mean, I can understand that it will know my telephone number and where I live, but I'm not really sure how my wife's name, because she has no social media presence. She refuses to do any of this. It says male in my 40s. Okay, well, for good or worse, that's out there. And then there's basic results. And what's funny about this is that some of it's right and some of it's wrong. I'm in my early 40s. My ethnicity is right. I'm married. It's a professional occupation, single family house. This is not the value of my house by any mean. My zodiac sign is wrong. I don't really care. There's not a lot of judgment that's going into this kind of website. It's just gathering information in there. And I thought, wow, that's pretty scary. And then I scrolled down a little more. Oh my goodness, there's a picture of the street I live on. How long did it take me to find this? Pretty quickly. So everybody, if you haven't Googled yourself, maybe you want to, but if you want to see what's out there even more, Spokeo.com is something that you may want to take a look at. All right, now we were also going to look at Facebook. Folks do have. All right, thank you. Lots of folks have Facebook pages. It's a great way for me to connect with my family. Okay, so these are folks that I'll just give you a little rundown if you haven't. Who doesn't have a Facebook account? Okay, so everybody knows what this is and what this is like. Now, one of the privacy settings that I have is that students have asked me to be their friend on Facebook. Well, there's things I want to share with my family, and there's things I don't want to share with students, just to keep some professional boundaries that are out there. So students are actually put in a special group here that has, and there are very high privacy settings on there. Essentially, they can only see my name and my profile picture. But the idea and what we were going to do is I'm going to try to find Alex on Facebook. And the way you do that is in the search bar. All right, so I'm going to click here. All right, so there's an Alexandra Libby right here. That's not her. See more results for Alexandra Libby. These are all the Alexandra Libbys that come up. And what I would find, and I know this because I looked yesterday, she's not listed here. But I really want to find Alexandra Libby. I know that she's friends with a girl named Amanda. Okay, so I go to Amanda's site. Okay, and there's not a lot of privacy there. So I'm going to go down to all of her friends. And then I can search for, let's see what I can find out about Alexandra Libby. Did you change this? Oh.
I didn't touch it. I haven't been on in like 2 days.
Oh, there she is. Alexandra Libby. I didn't know you went to Nazareth and were going to graduate in 2012.
Which actually isn't what I'm graduating, but that's
Okay. So here is Alex's Facebook page. Okay. Here's also some friends that we both have in common together. Okay. And to her credit, she has excellent profile privacy here. There's nothing that, if I'm not connected with her, nothing's showing up. The picture is pretty benign, and I can't even click on this to see what other pictures are there. So unless she gives me permission, the only thing I can find out about Alex is who her friends are, or who our mutual friends are. Okay? So those are just two quick examples of how delving into social networking and delving into the internet at all can put information out there that you may not want out there, or may not want out there in the context that it's being aggregated. Okay, so that's a brief overview of social media and social networking. We have a few minutes left. Are there any questions that folks have?
Spokeo have competition? Is there another, or is that the main one that's an aggregator?
Well, there's a few that are out there. Spokeo seems to be the easiest right now, but there's also ZoomInfo is another one. I think if you just Google aggregators, a lot will come up as well, because there's a lot of money to be made in doing something like that.
You can simplify Google.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's there's a lot of those things that are out there, and I'm sure that there's, depending how deep you go, there's information out there that can be harmful to you if anybody is looking for information on you, if they're going to have any kind of transactional exchange with you. So those are some things to really consider if you're going into competition with anybody, or if you're going into any kind of relationship with anyone, either a business relationship or some kind of even more adversarial relationship. I'm thinking lawyers, of course. So the internet and what's out there on the internet can be very, very damaging as well.
We have jurors.
You do have jurors, but
So you better have something good.
some of that information you may not have wanted out there at all in the first place, and would have better. And sometimes the information that is on here serve as breadcrumbs to bigger things as well. Like, why has this person moved 6 times in the last year? Or why did they have 3 jobs that aren't on their resume but they're listed on the directories?
I think you can also give some website $29.99 or something and have the person's background, like their criminal background, and have a background check run on them.
Okay.
A little freaky.
And I'm getting the eyeball from Rachel in here. So thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
Please.
Mhm.